If your brand makes up a large chunk of Warren Buffett's portfolio, the chances are you're doing something very right. Coca Cola is undoubtedly the most recognised brand on planet Earth, so if you launch a new flavour or make a change, people are going to notice. It wasn't that long ago that the portfolio had a revamp and a pretty robust new architecture was created in order to unify the range. When this happens, it usually comes with a pretty tight set of brand guidelines to dictate how new products are integrated and how flavour extensions are displayed. In essence, that's what the guidelines are for, to make a robust set of rules in order to reinforce the brand at every consumer touchpoint. That was until Coke decided to bring back the lemon flavour from the grave. This was originally a flavour extension consigned to the dustbin back in 2006. However, the company has identified enough interest to relaunch the pack and flavour in a completely new livery, which challenges the existing pack architecture. I suppose the first thing to say here is that I find this really confusing. At the end of the day, it's just a flavour extension. It's not an exciting piece of new product development, as it was around 20 years ago. Realistically, any flavour extension should fall in line with what the parent range does. That is, introduce a flavour colour to the backdrop with the white Coke logo for the full sugar and a black logo for the low sugar. Fairly simple guidelines and easy to follow. So what's happened here? The simple colour change that Coke have adopted for most of the range extensions has been challenged and changed to a vignette that goes from yellow to red in the background, something that cues jelly and custard more than a carbonated soft drink. This inclusion of Coke Red on the variant is also actually a feature only of the full sugar or low sugar versions, so I feel it's going to cause a bit of confusion. The other thing to note here is something I've posted about before with regards to the use of a colour on yellow. This falls down somewhat when you try and stick to a rigid architecture and on the full sugar version use a white logo behind it, because impact here is reduced significantly as it disappears into the background. They seem to try and make up for this a little by introducing a red keyline around the logo. Whether this is for standout or printer reasons remains to be seen, but the end result's a bit of a mess. The other bizarre addition here is a graphic illustration of a fizzy lemon being plopped into the drink. This conjures up a plink plink fizz campaign from Alka-Seltzer and tends to make the pack appear quite pharmaceutical. Maybe actually this is that mythical hangover cure that people have alluded to over the years. Who knows? Relaxing of architecture and brand guideline rules seems to be pretty common in Coke. You could perhaps forgive it for MPD extensions as per the Coke 3000 I covered in my podcast last November, but it's pretty sacrilegious doing that on simple flavour extensions like this one. Getting your hierarchy right on pack can be the difference between standing out or disappearing on shelf. Implementing a clear, cohesive brand architecture across core and extended products is imperative both for shelf standout and to aid consumer navigation. This architecture provides familiarity while introducing cues that differentiate offerings. Done correctly, it helps consumers navigate the range in an efficient way. A solid architecture creates consistency. Now, consumers appreciate it when a business has a consistent brand. In fact, it's been shown that a consistent presentation of a brand is seen to increase revenue by 33%, and that's from an article from Lucid Press back in 2019. So why is this important? It takes between 5 and 7 impressions to even start creating brand awareness. When creating packaging design, especially on large ranges or ranges with multiple offerings, brands should make sure they repeatedly emphasise the brand uniform and assets in a consistent way, as this will help consumer recall. Simply put, the architecture defines where all the important bits go. Effective pack design should make the core brand assets prominent to capture attention. Generous negative space and clean zones around the brand logo, benefits and icons will maximise their visibility and shelf impact. This draws the eye to what matters the most. In order to cement relationships and perceptions built by a parent brand, maintaining aesthetic and messaging consistency remains critical. Extensions displaying familiar brand assets executed in a similar way intrinsically signal an offering that will align to values they expect. From typefaces and colour palettes to the positioning of imagery, repeating these identifiable brand equities immerses consumers in familiarity while still introducing something new. This consistency cements positive brand perceptions and integrity. Defining and maintaining a strong, flexible brand architecture for both core and extended products ensures offerings stand out on shelf, whilst enabling easy consumer navigation. Keeping brand equities prominent and consistent and highlighting key differentiators, implementing visual hierarchy and extending versus departing too drastically from stylistic norms all enable success on shelf. So you sort of get the impression that Coke is using different agencies for each launch, where each of these agencies are maybe not party to the previous pack designs and have all decided to ignore the brand guidelines entirely. But then, if that's the case, this direction needs to be presented with a clear rationale as to why that's happened in a way to convince the brand team of its merits. One comment on my original LinkedIn post said, at first glance, they felt that this appeared like a knockoff Coke. And that's another key point here. Brands need to be really careful. The guidelines are put in place in order to protect the brand identity and create consistency over everything in the portfolio. Anything that's counter to this tends to have the opposite effect of reinforcement and tends to dilute existing equity. Whether this is just a one-off and a transient design that will be replaced by a new pack that maybe falls more in line with the portfolio remains to be seen. So let's see what happens with this Frankenstein's monster of a pack post-relaunch. Well, that's it. That's a wrap, as they say. I hope you found it informative. If it adds value, then please do subscribe. I'm Al, owner and creative director of Slice Design. You can follow me on my LinkedIn page, which is linkedin.com/in/Alan Gilbody, or you can follow us on our company website, which is slicedesign.co.uk. So until next time, have a fantastic week and keep well.